I think you've all been thinking about your strategy workshop that's coming up that you're going to have on Zoom. And I'm going to be using a strategy you're already very familiar with just for this example. One thing I'd like to see in your workshops is that you did some exploration and some research. Try and find a strategy that not everyone knows really well. There are hundreds of strategies that are really very good. Welcome to my workshop on a strategy for summarizing. I'd like to explain a simple strategy called Somebody Wanted But So, and it can help in the literacy development of my grade 6 English language learning student in my science class. My student is Jamal. This is his profile. And of course, to individualize, you really do need to know your student well. We have a lot of families from Syria who've come to Canada in the past few years. Jamal speaks Arabic at home, he loves soccer, and he's got a really special interest in space. And here's Jamal's position on the reading profile on the Observable Language Behaviors Continuum. He's in stage 3 of this continuum, and right now he's using adapted text or simplified text, and I'd like to move him along to being able to read authentic texts in step 4. The Ontario's grade 6 science curriculum has an expectation that students will be looking at contributions of Canadians in space technology, like the Canadarm. So I can look at Jamal's literacy growth in terms of his interest in space and our content. Now, I have to do this content in science, so I have to think of what task I'm going to use for this learning outcome. So it's to write a paragraph after reading about a technology for space. But I have to think, what strategy can I use to help these students summarize, and particularly my student Jamal? So I'm going to use Somebody Wanted But So. We know you are familiar with this. There are some attributes of this tool, such as it does summarize, it can be used for assessing, and it supports independent work. And you can use a specific structure to help you get that information to do the summary. So you need to make sure you include a rationale in your lesson, and this is my rationale for using Somebody Wanted But So. This is a good tool. Notice that number 1 and 3 are behaviors I want to encourage in my students. I want them to become good readers who pause and summarize as they read, because you really need to do that, especially in content reading. And I want them to use an authentic text that supports and then support that with a scaffold of summarizing. So I'm thinking that this is going to help them move along from step 3 to 4. So to get ready to use this, you have to read your article or view your video, and you want it to be at or above the reading level. You want to preview it for anything that needs to be pre-taught. And then you're going to use that template yourself to make sure that this tool works for that reading or that viewing. And in this case, it really does. And we saw the strategy of I do, we do, and you do in a video. So I'm going to read a short passage with the students, and then I'm going to model filling in the template and thinking aloud as I'm doing so. And this is really an important thing to always do when you're starting a new technique or process. So by filling in this model on Chris Hadfield, we end up with a short summary at the end. Chris Hadfield wanted to fly, but he was raised on a farm. He studied mechanical engineering and also became a pilot. He became an astronaut who walked in space and helped put up the Canadarm. Here's Jamal's summary of the reading that he was given. Notice how appropriate the strategy is for content classes like science. This particular reading fit perfectly, and he ended up with NASA wanted a crane to lift heavy loads and move satellites in space, but the cranes on Earth could not do the job. So, Canadian engineers and scientists developed a crane for space called the Canadarm1 and Canadarm2. There's quite a bonus too that you can use this strategy after a little practice with a longer piece of writing. It could be a novel, it could be content reading, and end up using it to help them with a research or a project. At this point, I'd like to pause my workshop and let's all talk about a couple of things. So my first prompt is, how can this strategy be extended to a topic in math? So my group would talk about that. Maybe we'd come up with how it could be used with certain word problems to help them unpack a math problem. And then we could talk about the second prompt. My examples for grade 6. How can this strategy be used for any grade level? You'll be able to figure out some way within your lesson to engage your group. And we do need to look at the benefits and limitations of the strategy, and you can see that it really does give a simple structure for summarizing. It is the student can be successful and see their success right away, and a teacher can assess whether or not the student is able to summarize. But it is limited because not every text structure is suited to this template. You have to really choose it. Choose the text that fits this strategy, and you have to get the right reading level. You definitely will have to teach other summarizing strategies for complex texts. And these are my references. Once again, it's hard to get the hanging indents, so I'll understand if you don't have hanging indents on your references. So I hope that helps you with your presentation, and I think it'll be much more fun in person than just doing a recording like this. Good luck with it.